This is breaking news. It's incredible the dirt that has been dug up on Rick Santorum. Supposedly, there's this narrative about Rick Santorum. He homeschooled his kids, and he's Mr. Small Government. And yes, he's supposedly a very strict social conservative as well. But the fact is, it's a myth and it's a narrative. He voted numerous times to raise the debt ceiling in Congress. I believe he voted for No Child Left Behind and numerous other big government issues. But today, we have new dirt that it's incredible. It's as if he's been going along in a bubble because he was at 5% or something in the polls and nobody paid any attention to him. So now, the day before the election, we find out that Rick Santorum has apparently been, according to the Plum Oakmont Patch, which is the local version, I believe, of the AOL news network, the Patch. But this article, it just points out so much. The dirt is wild. It's totally wild. Let's start with the worst part of it. I don't know if it's really the worst, but let's just start out with this part about his cyber school. His kids were supposed to be cyber schooled. I'm sorry, not cyber school, homeschooled. Apparently that was all a lie. His kids were not actually homeschooled. His kids were quote, cyber schooled in front of a computer paid for by the taxpayers in Pennsylvania to the tune of $100,000. And this apparently isn't new information. In 2004, it says, Penn Hills School District records show local taxpayers had paid more than $100,000 for Santorum's children to attend the cyber charter school. After the controversy started, Santorum said he would pull the children from the school, but the charter school officials offered to allow Santorum to enroll the children without the tuition, provided he picked up the technology course. What is it about? Why Mr. Santorum needs a freebie to enroll his kids in cyber school? And why, if he was homeschooling, then why was the taxpayers paying that $100,000 to educate them? That doesn't make any sense. None. And they paid for his kids to go to school, but the problem is that Rick Santorum didn't necessarily, live in Pennsylvania. So they paid $100,000 to educate his kids who didn't live in Pennsylvania. Apparently what happened is that the district waited too long to challenge his residency in Pennsylvania. So the board appealed, and in the end the school board accepted the State Department of Education's offer of $55,000 to resolve the dispute over the cyber charter bills. And there's numerous other questions. About his residency, Santorum's residency issue came to light in 2004 during two incidents where it was apparent that the U.S. Senator had not been receiving mail delivered to his Penn Hills address, which has a 15147 Verona zip code. In November 2004, the Penn Hills Progress reported that Santorum had failed to appeal for jury duty at Allegheny County Court of Common Pleas that July. He said at the time he never received the notice sent to his Penn Hills home to serve as a juror. And then the senator had the same complaint that April when a former Progress reporter, Vera Miller, called his Washington, D.C. office asking why he had not paid his delinquent 2002 municipal property taxes of $275. A Santorum family member paid off the delinquent bill a few days after the reporter's call. So we got a congressman who I believe makes at least $200,000 a year and also has paid, well, we don't know if he paid or what, but he bought a house in Virginia, or he's living in a house in Great Falls, Virginia, worth over $2 million. And he's a congressman. I mean, that's a pricey house, $2 million. You know, I don't know how he can really afford it, but I mean, $200,000 is a good salary, but you just wonder. He has a bunch of kids. He can afford to live in this house that's supposed to be worth $2 million. Is appraised at I believe $1.5 million. But the problem with this house is that there were notes on the website, on the Virginia County website, the Department of Records. It's the County Department of Tax Administration's website, and it shows that he paid $0 for the house. And the former owner is listed as James M. Sack, T.R., Sack standing for trust. Sack, a business tax attorney from McLean, Virginia, whose website says he regularly provides tax and business advice related to transactional matters, third-party negotiation, restructuring of loans, and other business arrangements, purchased the house on August 31st, 2007 for $2,560,000 more than the previous owner had paid 4 years earlier and more than its current assessment. But the problem is it raises questions about the sales transaction because the 4 previous sales of the house list valid and verified sale in the website notes about the property. However, the transaction between Sack, a Republican campaign contributor, and Santorum says no consideration in the notes section, according to Fairfax County records. That opens the question as to what circumstances surrounded the sale and whether Santorum actually paid for the house. So it's incredible. You know, he lives in a house that is not clear he paid for it. He got it for no consideration. He claims that he lives in Pennsylvania and he owns another house in PA that he doesn't really live in, and his children are educated on a cyber school's charter school at the expense of a PA school board. So the dirt, I mean, it's incredible. What he's a congressman, and he has multiple properties, and he expects the county school board to pay $100,000 for his kid's education in a cyber school, while he doesn't even live in that county. And it says here the 2-story Virginia house at 10,607 Cream Cup Lane sits on a 5-acre lot. has 5,000 square feet of livable space and an 800 square foot swimming pool, 4 bedrooms and 1 den bedroom, den/bedroom, 4.5 baths, and 3 fireplaces. The house has double this. It says more space, but it's double the space of its house in Pennsylvania. So he has 3 daughters and 4 sons, 7 kids, but I mean, sure they need a good-sized house, but you just wonder when campaign contributors are buying your houses for you, what does he do in exchange? What does he do for the campaign contributor? If the campaign contributor buys him a $2 million house, he doesn't pay for it. What is the campaign contributor getting in return? But I think there's even more to it here. Let's go back over this. They started out the story talking about how he brought 40 jars of peach preserves to a crowd in Iowa at the Perry Public Library, and apparently those peach preserves probably weren't picked in Pennsylvania, because I assume they probably couldn't really grow there, but he claimed that they did. It's not a big, gigantic thing. It's more like I guess a white lie, but it just seems dishonest way to campaign. Claim that your peach preserves came from Pennsylvania when they really came from Virginia. I don't know why you have to tell the white lie. It's not a big thing. And so the whole story about that he has this house in Virginia and another house in PA. The other part of that story is that he defeated a congressman, a Democrat, who was basically doing the same thing he was doing, living in Virginia. He was elected from PA, living in Virginia, and Santorum made a big deal about it, that the guy was living in Virginia but was elected from a PA district, and he wanted to be close to Washington, lived there close to Washington with his family. And Santorum apparently clubbed him over the head on that issue, and then he turns around and does the same thing himself and buys a $2 million house, plus the house in Pennsylvania. You know, you wonder where he gets all this money from, or doesn't get it from campaign contributors, from a campaign contributor. It's not really clear. And he continues to claim that he lives in PA when he was educating his kids. And then, most recently, in an interview, he did admit to living in Virginia. So it's just so many questions raised. Well, his campaign ads say that his kids were homeschooled. You know, cyberschooling is not homeschooling. And then another issue was this came to light in 2006 over whether Santorum was claiming he was still claiming a homestead exemption on his property in PA. But then county officials determined the Santorum didn't occupy the house enough days during the year to qualify. And then, despite living in Virginia, Santorum failed to submit the 10,000 signatures needed to qualify for the Virginia primary election on March 6th, which is a little strange, but obviously is no crime. So Mr. Santorum is not all that clean. He votes for big government programs, raising the debt ceiling numerous times, and he has all kinds of questions about how he educated his kids at taxpayer expense through cyberschools instead of homeschooling. He claimed it was homeschooling. And then additionally, he didn't apparently actually live in Pennsylvania. So he had the wrong school district paying for his... He had taxpayers in PA paying for his kids' education instead of in Virginia. I mean, Great Falls, Virginia, that's a pricey suburb of Washington, D.C., and, you know, if he lives in Great Falls, Virginia, you wouldn't expect that taxpayers in PA, which is probably just an average middle class, some type of middle class suburb, should be paying to educate people who live in Great Falls, Virginia, which is a very pricey area. You know, you got houses there $2 million and up. They start around $1 to $2 million, I'm sure, and go up from there. So he had people in PA subsidizing his average people subsidizing him and his $2 million house. So Mr. Santorum has a lot of questions to answer. That's it for today. Spread this as far and wide as you can before Election Day, caucus day tomorrow.